issues. And I would ask Senator Hickman if you could do us your number 10.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, what a great day you've given us, Lord. We appreciate the rain so much this morning, Lord. We thank you for the sunshine and the blue skies this afternoon. Just help us, Heavenly Father, give us the guidance, wisdom to review these bills, and help us always honor you in all that we say and do. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Senator Harbison, the Dean of the Senate here, if you want to come up and present. As I told you, we've got to get a fiscal note, and we requested that the other day. But let's hear your bill. I know it's a fairly short bill. We requested it. We have requested it as of that day when I talked to you about it. So let's go through here. I'm probably out of order, but we'll get to that bill.
First one.
Yeah, why did I get out of order here? I must have skipped it on the other side. Okay, so Senate Bill 405, I've got LC 345791.
Yes.
And if you want to present this bill.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Wait a minute, let me turn you on there. Maybe your mic might not be on your own now.
Yes, sir. Thank you. This came about when it was brought to my attention by the Military Officers Association at Fort Benning, Colonel Biff Hatton, and that particular group. They came to me with this problem during a particular conference they were having, and they said that they were not treated as other nonprofit organizations. And the military organization, Military Officers Association, is a fraternal organization, and War Veterans Chapter, almost all Vietnam veterans, and the IRS recognizes it as tax deductible because of that one caveat of them being war veterans. But more importantly, they are nonprofit. They are 501c 19 of the Internal Revenue Code. And they were saying they just wanted to be treated as they should be properly treated as a nonprofit, as other nonprofit organizations. What they do, in addition to a fraternal organization, they give out scholarships every year. They give out scholarships to the tune of, like, I think about three $1,000 scholarships. And they do that across the country, not only in Fort Benning, but there's a national chapter. I'm sorry, I should have passed this out. If I make this is a national organization, but this is a chapter in Columbus, Georgia, and they are requesting this courtesy of them being treated like other nonprofits in that particular category. This would include, I suppose, like the Disabled American Veterans, the American Legion, Military Orders, Purple Heart, and the Veterans of Foreign Wars, as well as other organizations. So as you can see, it changes on line 12 through 15, that particular section, that brings them into it to make them eligible to be nonprofit or recognized as they feel they properly should be.
All right. So is this exemption from paying on purchases or on selling goods?
I think it would be more in paying purchases, because I'm trying to figure out where they would be buying stuff other than office products or something like that.
Okay. Our Vice Chair, Senator Albers, had a question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you always, Senator. I appreciate the great work you do. You've been just such a champion for all those who served alongside of you. So thank you for that.
Thank you for the work you do against the police and other law enforcement types.
Thank you. This is, I love the spirit of the bill. I was just looking, we don't generally in Georgia exempt 501c3 charity organizations from sales tax. That's not a normal protocol. Are you aware of that in other areas that we do that today?
My only understanding, and the thing that sort of makes this unique, is that war veterans, I think war veterans is the qualifying line in that particular interpretation of what they feel they should be included, war veterans.
Okay.
And that war veterans, I think, is recognized by the Internal Revenue Code as non-taxable or tax exempt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions of the committee? So in the meantime, what we'll do is we'll get clarification on Senator Albers'
Sure.
question, and we also will get a fiscal note saying what the impact is. I know originally you didn't think it needed one, and we looked at it a little bit closer and
I
realized
agree.
it did have to have one. So we have requested that. Hopefully we'll have that by next week.
Thank you, Mr.
Seeing
Chairman.
no
Your
other
consideration.
questions, we appreciate you coming to the committee, and we'll get you out of here fairly quickly.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. You're the Navy, but appreciate you anyway.
All right. All right. Senator Anderson, we're going to hear you next here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let me pull the bill out here and make sure we're on the same LC number. I've got Senate Bill 511 LC 432297S. And let me back up just a second because we started before we had a quorum. And I think most people have been introduced that are part of this committee. Kaylee Maxwell over there, everybody knows Blake Travis. Abby Jansen is I call them interns, but the University of Georgia Law School says they're externs for whatever that is, but she's working with the committee. She's sort of she'll graduate in May from the University of Georgia Law School and is a financial type attorney. Well, go dogs, but then I think she's taking a job with a trust group in Chattanooga. So she's kind of be up there in Mullis's district, I guess. He's still claiming part of that, but she's been a great addition to the committee. So I did want to make sure we recognized her. She's done a lot of work, but actually hasn't been here at the time we've been having meetings in the past, and she's done some of them online with us. Anyway, with that, go ahead, our Chair of Slogo, and present your bill.
All right. As the chairman said, I'm working off of LC 432297S. Committee members, I'm bringing this bill to you. It's basically coming from the clerks, all your county clerks in the state of Georgia. Basically what we have is when someone wants to have an appeal on the taxes, you have the tax assessor's office has 180 days to review the case. Well, within that 180 days, it's got to be transferred over to the clerk of court for the equalization board to do their job. And all this bill is doing, and it's in basically line 27 to 33. We're making it to where it's still 180 days, but it'd be 90 days for the tax assessor and 90 days for the clerk to do their job. And then at the same time, the tax assessor asked that this be placed in the bill on 96, line 96 and 97. No, let me back up. Lines 100 and 101. If apparently a tax appeal was not heard and someone had put in for a very low value on that property and it got passed through, that piece of property would be valued at that. But at the same time, it could not be used for a comp if it was, very low ball tax price. I mean, what the owner had put on their tax value. And that's basically the nutshell of the bill. If you've got any questions, I have Mike Holloman here with me. But all your clerks, this is basically coming from your clerks.
Right.
Asking for 90 days for each side. The tax assessor to have 90 and the clerk have 90 days.
So it's the same 180 days. It's
The
just
same 180 days.
taking the
Yes, sir.
180 from the front and saying 90 days, and then it automatically goes to the equalization board instead of just becoming.
That way
fact at that
they have
point.
90 days to do that job.
All right. I don't know that we had a sign up sheet on this bill. Is there anybody that wanted to speak in support or opposition of this bill? Wanted to ask that at first. So seeing none, questions from the committee.
Make a motion at appropriate time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, make sure everybody's good with this. If any questions you have, doesn't look like there's any questions. You must have done a good job or something. I don't know. Or somebody on behalf of you.
More than likely, they probably just want to get rid of me.
All right, go ahead. We're ready for a motion.
Well, in concurrence with the bill's author, I moved you pass.
We've got a motion from Senator Albers, a second from Senator Jones. Any further discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously. And we'll let you deal with the next level of that, who's sitting over there on the front row to get it onto the floor.
Tiffany, right?
Yeah.
It's named Tiffany now.
All right. All right. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Okay, Senator Summers, your bill is up next here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. We're talking about LC 432253. LC 432253. Members of the committee, this is a bill that should have probably been done 20, 30 years ago when agricultural products got exempt. What we're asking for here is very simply, as you well know, some background history, all farm equipment is ad valorem tax exempt. A farmer could not pay his taxes on millions and millions of dollars worth of equipment and be able to come out. One tractor costs $300,000. One cotton combine costs $850,000. And people have no idea what these things cost. Well, it's the same thing with spray planes. Agriculture spray planes are designed for one use and one use only. And that is spraying herbicides, fungicides, et cetera, and fertilizers. That's all they do. They're built in Albany, Georgia. Most of them called Thrush down here in Albany, Georgia, and they cost well excess of $1 million to buy a new airplane. And they can only do one thing. And they hold one pilot, and one pilot sits in there in a very cramped little cockpit. And that's all they do is spray plane. That's all they do is spray. And the fact of the matter of it is I'd like to see us, it's got to go on the ballot, obviously. At least that's what I've been told. That's how this bill is written. To allow people to vote to say if they will exclude airplanes like they did agricultural products from tax exemption. And that's what I'm here asking this committee to do today. And I'll be happy to entertain any questions and if anybody has any. But basically what it amounts to is we're asking to get airplanes that exclusively are used for agricultural purposes to be exempt from local ad valorem taxes.
All right, we've got a couple of questions. Senator Albers, if you want to go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator. This is a good bill. Question, do you have a fiscal note for this bill?
I was told I didn't need it. And then the chairman, Hufstetter, said we might need to pull one. So I do not have an, no, sir. The answer to that question is no, sir. Since it's local.
The state doesn't collect property tax. This is where the rules, I sometimes don't agree with the rules, but the rules say if it's no fiscal impact on the state, then there's no fiscal impact, but it could have a fiscal impact on the counties. And so we're going to probably look at that a little bit closer. And the other thing I had talked to the author today about was I don't want people gaming the system by using an aircraft for one day of the year and say, well, it's used for this. So I think we need to, if we do go forward with this, maybe on line 12, put aircraft exclusively used.
Mr. Chairman, we can put it on line 3 and line 12 if the committee so desires. Aircraft on line 3, it says aircraft exclusively used there. And we can put in the start of section number 12, exclusive aircraft used exclusively there if you so desire. I have no problem with that.
Okay. Is there anybody here from ACCG that wants to address this?
I prefer no one.
Chairman, I am here for ACCG. I'm not authorized to speak.
Okay. Well, will you be ready next week? Okay. All right. We'll give them a fair amount of time to do this. Senator Jackson.
No, sir. My chairman, my question was related to the fiscal note.
Okay. Yeah, and am I right on that, Blake? Um, uh,
Does it require one, sir? I don't know.
I don't think it will because of it being not affecting state revenue.
That's right.
So sometimes, look at other bills with that too in the future, you'll say, well, there's no fiscal impact.
Let me
That's
state-
partially true.
Let me put this down if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman. I don't have these numbers, so I can't tell you this is 100% truth, but I can tell you what I've been told. According to the organization, there's less than 100 of these planes in existence in Georgia. And out of that 100, there's probably only about 45 to 60 that fly. The rest of them are used for parts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but they're still being taxed sitting on the ground. They don't fly anymore. They use whatever they use the parts out of them to help their other airplanes. So it's a very low number also, if you don't mind.
Okay. And just out of fairness to ACCG, this was the first hearing. We usually give people a little bit of time to investigate. So hopefully we'll be ready next week on your bill. Senator Hickman, you're number 10.
Number 10. Yes, sir. Just two questions. First of all, I don't quite understand why this has to be a referendum or, voted on by the general public. That's the first question. The second question is, this also does not, and I've seen planes that are converted from just regular transportation planes to, they put all those freight things on. That doesn't affect those at all.
No, sir.
That's right. And then also, the other thing would be about the property tax versus sales tax. And so the property tax would be at the county level, obviously, and I guess that's what the gentleman here is going to address next time.
Right. What's the impact on our counties? It's only fair to let them say, if one county is getting devastated by this. I don't expect that,
Right.
No.
but just in fairness to them, we want to give them an opportunity. And there was a time we did have a state property tax.
Yeah.
And so it did have an impact.
Yeah.
But
Well,
since we have
I-
eliminated that, most people don't realize we cut that out completely.
Well, I know in our area, people that have airplanes, we have to report those airplanes on personal property tax returns. So
Mhm.
that's why I'm asking that. And then why is this a referendum as opposed to just passing through the Senate and and the governor sign it as opposed to?
Well, I would say this type of exemption requires a constitutional amendment, but I'll let the attorney speak to that.
I'm just curious,
And if you want to come up to one of these mics and be heard,
yeah, because we pass tax bills and then just go right on through. So that's why.
is that number 6 there? 5. Okay, go ahead. I'll go on 5 then.
Yeah, for this bill, the state of Georgia's constitution requires uniformity for the taxation of property, real and personal tangible property. To provide for an exemption, it requires 2/3 in a referendum. That would apply statewide. Probably most familiar with homestead exemptions, which can apply locally. Since this is statewide, it would be statewide referendum, 2/3 in both chambers.
In both chambers.
Okay, thank you.
And to answer your sales tax question, Senator Hickman, they may be able to buy on the gate card, Mr. Chairman. I don't know in regards to that because farming does use the gate card, but that's not what I'm about.
Let's don't.
That's
get
right.
that-
Don't
get in
confuse me with
issue.
that. Don't put me in that, please.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will get that information. Any other questions on the bill itself? If not, we'll work on this and be with you next week.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Chairman Mullis has a bill to present here. Yeah.
Can I bring another chair up? I have a guest.
Okay, sure.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to answer all the hard questions, but I brought my friend Bill Riley up for the easy questions.
All right. Let me
Come on, that's kind of funny.
get some of these others out of the way here. So we got Senate Bill 520. I've got the beer bill that happened to get 420. I don't know if there's any coincidence on that or not. I don't know if there's anything to 520.
I drink to that.
But anyway, this is Senate Bill 520 LC 471386. Is that what you're working off of?
Well, I don't have a bill copy, but it's okay. I don't need it.
Oh, okay. Got it in memory.
Yeah, right. Well, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for letting me come before you today. Senate Bill 520 will simply make clear that ad valorem taxes for multiple jurisdictions can fund an independent school system. And the only sentence of the bill that has any effect starts on line 17 in your copy. And there it states that the ad valorem may be collected in another municipality if that school system is serving the children there. Otherwise, the school system may be left with the expense of educating the area students, but potentially unable to collect necessary revenue from that same area. And we're talking about public schools. We're not talking, of course, about private schools or those kind of schools. But oftentimes, when you got two school systems nearby, you will overlap in certain areas. For example, my hometown, Chickamauga, small town, has a city school system, and where I live now is in the county school system. So they have shared some of the same students, and this kind of clarifies that. I'd like to invite Mr. Riley to kind of give a little brief synopsis of this. He's more of an expert of this than I am. Bill Riley. Oh, you may have seen him on, he's not the Bill O'Reilly, but the Bill Riley.
All right, give us your name and address and who you're with.
My name's Bill Riley. I live at 70 Perimeter Center East in Dunwoody, Georgia. And I am an attorney who is a volunteer attorney for Buckhead City.
Okay.
This bill simply clarifies what would be the result of a school system that was serving a population that was an independent school system that would continue to serve a population, but would no longer be within that same municipality. The Constitution would, when the Constitution provides that a school system will retain jurisdiction over a population, then the Constitution controls, and the school system would not revert back to a county system. But what happens with under this, what this law provides, or the amendment to the law provides, is that school system could continue to have taxes to pay for the school system within the second jurisdiction.
Of course, that'd be important, especially when you have East Plus and who that money would go to if you have different school systems in the area.
So in the case, because you're using as an example, Buckhead City, who decides whether these school systems, whether these two cities join together or not? I mean, what if you've got one city that says we want to join together and have a school system, the other city that doesn't? How's that worked out?
Well, any independent school system that had a local constitutional amendment that required that independent school system to expand when the city annexed property, but did not provide for a retraction of that school system when their de-annexation occurred, would fall into that category. So there is a local constitutional amendment of 1950 that was ratified by the legislature after the new Constitution, so it remained in effect, that said that the Atlanta public school system would expand into unincorporated parts of Fulton County when those parts of Fulton County were annexed into the city. It does not.
No, keep the chatter down, please.
It does not provide for any provision for de-annexation. So under the plain reading of the constitutional amendment, the Atlanta public school system would remain the school system, the independent school system for the area, even if de-annexed. What this amendment provides is the Atlanta public school system could continue to tax that area that they are mandated by the Constitution to provide services for. So it's actually for the benefit of the Atlanta public school system to make clear that they would continue to be able to tax the citizens of Buckhead City to provide the Atlanta Public School System services that are mandated under the constitutional amendment.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm still not clear on the law. So if this were to happen, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen right now, just from what I'm seeing at this particular time, but if this were to happen, are you saying the Atlanta school system would be required to include them in it, your reading of the law?
Yes, sir.
And they would receive taxes from the area too.
No, no doubt they would
Yeah.
receive the same taxes.
Yeah, whether you're for it or not, Buckhead City, this is to clarify the Atlanta Public Schools, make sure they get their funding continued and so forth.
Okay, another question I've got.
Are you against that?
We've got a couple other questions. Let's keep it, addressing the committee and everything here. This line 43 through 45 back here is completely stripped out. Now, my understanding, and this goes back before me, but that there was a certain number of school systems, and at some point we decided we're limiting the number of school systems.
That was the city school system, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
You probably were around for
I
that.
was not, but
Oh.
okay.
But my question is, so does this open it up statewide where all these cities, if you take that sentence out, where school systems could start up statewide by doing this?
I would be all for that, but that's not our intention.
No, but I'm just asking the question, if that would happen, and maybe that's a question I should ask of legislative council, let them think about it.
If you'd like me to respond, I will, Senator.
Sure, you can give us a response.
Senator, I don't believe that would occur. I believe that the state law provides that the county provides the school system in the absence of an independent school system already. I don't know that there's any provision in the law that would provide that you could contract with another school system to usurp the county school system at this point in time, but I'd defer to legislative council. But I do not believe that this change would have the unintended consequence that you have asked about.
Well, I'm just looking at it now. I'm certainly not a lawyer, but when it says authority is given by the Constitution of Georgia to municipalities now authorized by law to operate independent school systems to maintain public schools, if you're striking that, then we'll look at that and see as well. I think who's got questions down there? Okay, Senator Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here. When we use Atlanta public school systems, but as far as trying to clarify the jurisdiction, it's all in Fulton County, though, correct? So it's a school system that is there to provide services for the residents of Fulton County. So why? So explain to me why we need to change anything, whether or not a different structure, city structure occurs within the Fulton County system. Well, like South Fulton, the children go to South Fulton and they live in South Fulton. Don't they attend Atlanta public school system?
No, sir, they don't.
They do not.
They go to Fulton County schools. The general proviso would be that if you created a new city without a new school system, they would continue to go to the school system that they were in. Okay, that generally speaking, when all the new cities were created, they didn't create new school systems, but they went to the Fulton County schools, they went to the DeKalb County schools, or they went to the Gwinnett County schools, where all the new cities have been started. But you have a unique situation in Atlanta, and it's historical in nature. In 1950, Atlanta wanted to expand, and they wanted to expand north and south. And there was a plan of improvement, I believe, of 1953 was the time of that. And I don't remember that, thankfully. But they, in 1950, in plans for that, they passed a local constitutional amendment that said that if Atlanta expanded into Fulton County, the Atlanta's public school system would go with Atlanta, and it would divest Fulton County of the authority to have those children in their schools. And that's what occurred when you had the new Constitution. All the local constitutional amendments went away unless they were ratified by the legislature thereafter. And the legislature ratified that local constitutional amendment. Yeah, and so it's still the law today. So the law provides that anything that was annexed into the city of Atlanta in Fulton County is subject to being part of the Atlanta public school system. It does not, under that local constitutional amendment, divest that if you de-annex part of the city. Those people would still go to the Atlanta public school system under the local constitutional amendment.
All right. Another question? Okay, go ahead.
This legislation, how would it affect, is it just targeted at this one particular, or could it have a effect, say in like Whitfield County where they got a city school system and then the county school system, the same with Gwinnett County and Beaufort and things of that nature? Would it have any kind of effect on the school systems already operating?
I do not believe it would, unless there is a provision in state law that currently allows an entity to contract for school services outside the legislative scheme. I don't believe that it has any effect. If it would have an effect in any school system, Chickamauga, Calhoun, Gordon County, Floyd County, or where they have, where I believe Rome has an independent school system also. It would not have effect on them because they don't have the local constitutional amendment.
I got you.
That was done to take land mass, not to, they'd never contemplated to de-annexation of the land mass.
I got you. Thank you.
All right. Let's see, is that Senator Warrock? Let's push button, you're 12 over there.
Yes, sir. That's right. Light came on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your comments and input on this bill. What you've done is deduced, isn't it true, that because the city of Atlanta has a local constitutional amendment that was not revoked, it was upheld, and provided that when Atlanta annexed additional property, the school children there would be served by the Atlanta school system. Now, how do you make the leap that means that a de-annexation would mean that the Atlanta school system is obligated to serve families, children that have been taken out of the city limits of Atlanta? And my follow-up is, well, go ahead and I'll do one at a time if you will. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The local constitutional amendment never contemplates de-annexation. So the plain reading of the amendment is that it is contemplated that Atlanta Public Schools takes care of those children. It engrosses the property that Atlanta takes in, but there is never a provision under the constitutional amendment to relieve Atlanta Public School of not only the authority, but the responsibility. There is no provision that I can find in state law that would allow that entity to go back to Fulton County and be a part of that school system. I have found no legislative scheme and certainly what's problematic, even if you had a legislative scheme, the constitutional amendment controls. So what we're doing here is we are marrying up the law to meet the constitutional amendment. That is that I believe there are over $300 million that Buckhead City provides to the Atlanta Public Schools.
Buckhead City?
Well, what Buckhead City, The the proposed Buckhead City area that funds into Atlanta Public Schools. And what this does, first of all, I believe that even if you didn't pass this legislation, you would have a judge that would craft this legislation upon their having cityhood, because I believe that you would, because otherwise you would put the citizens of the city of Atlanta in the position of having to pay for the entire school system with the proposed Buckhead City that would stay in the Atlanta public school system.
Follow-up question.
Yes,
How
ma'am.
how would that put the Atlanta school system responsible for a de-annexed area? That I just don't understand the lawyerly connecting of those dots. You say that the constitutional amendment is silent on the question of where a population to be de-annexed from the city. It's silent on that question. So how can you read into it, given that it's silent, how can you read into it that it's then responsible for de-annexed areas to continue to educate children where it does not collect school tax?
Bill happens to clarify that.
Well, I would say that if it's silent, you don't have the authority because the constitutional amendment only contemplates it being engrossed. It does not contemplate you being able to relieve yourself from
That's
that
right.
engrossment.
That's right.
So because it's engrossed, you can't divest yourself without a further constitutional amendment. It would, and that would have to be a statewide amendment. It would be similar to what happened with the Fulton Industrial District. It contemplated that it could not ever become part of a city. And in order for it to become part of the city of South Fulton, the legislature had to put a bill for referendum vote to repeal that local constitutional amendment. So you could thereafter annex Fulton Industrial District in the city of South Fulton.
There wasn't a local constitutional amendment for the city of South Fulton, was there? Because South Fulton City didn't exist.
No, ma'am, but there was a local constitutional amendment for the Fulton Industrial District that carried over from after the last constitution. And it was ratified just as the local constitutional amendment for Atlanta Public Schools was. In order to allow, you couldn't by legislation or otherwise change that status without a statewide constitutional amendment, which I know that Mr. Willard was one of the co-sponsors. I don't remember all the co-sponsors on it, but but you had a constitutional amendment, so you could wipe out the consequences of the local constitutional amendment and then allow the city of South Fulton to have that property as part of their tax base. And I believe that you're in the same situation here. You cannot divest this land mass from the Atlanta public school system absent a local constitutional amendment repealer, as you did for the Fulton Industrial District.
All right, well, we've got some legal issues to work out, so we're not gonna work on that at this point, but we do have a couple of questions to find out. Senator Redd, I believe you were next.
I think Senator Orrock might have asked this and got it addressed, but I was just curious if you can tax residents of a municipality to fund schools without a vote for the local school board of education.
I think that's a question we're gonna have to get legal counsel on. I'm sure we're gonna hear an opinion and he may be correct, but we've got to find out more information on that as well. And then I believe Senator Jackson.
Yes. Question is, when it comes to, let's say Atlanta Public Schools, do they have a choice of providing educational services for people who live outside of the school district?
Well, I think that's the same question, and we've gone around on that, and we're not going to answer that today. We're going to have to get some legal advice on that. So,
Same question. Okay. Thank you,
yeah,
Mr. Chairman.
so we'll have to find out. There's several issues here. We've got to research, whether this opens it up statewide or not, whether Atlanta would be required to do this and how that all works. So, we'll go to work on that in the meantime.
Given that if Atlanta Public Schools expands and grows with Atlanta, when Atlanta annexes, isn't the plain reading of the law that it would shrink in the face of a?
It's sort of the same question.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll investigate that.
And the other question is there's never been a city that has suffered a de-annexation in Georgia.
That's not true.
What-
I've de-annexed two
Up there in
areas of a city before.
I think that's really part of this bill right now.
Anyway,
And
yeah,
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Thank you,
that's why
Senator
we're
Albers,
trying to
very
make
much.
sure those questions are answers. If we go forward.
okay.
So
Did you,
Final comment?
okay,
I just,
Senator
wa-
Albers?
just wanted to remind the senators from the 36 and the whip that these things have mute buttons. So thank you.
All right, we appreciate the information. We'll do some investigation on this. And if no follow-up, we'll be done with this hearing for today. We appreciate you coming. Thank you for being here. No other business here today. We will get away from that bad precedent we had of meetings going over an hour for the first time this year and be under an hour on this one. With that, meeting's adjourned.